Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. Today I've come to explore a large old brickworks. It's quite an infamous place, abandoned since some fires in the 1960s which were and still are considered somewhat suspicious, and it's now about halfway through falling down. It has unrestricted easy access, and so it has proven to be quite the irresistible playground to a range of different hobbyists. Graffiti artists as a place to practice, YouTubing urban explorers as a good place to film, drone pilots come to attempt flying through an obstacle course of shell buildings, and young budding delinquents come to drink and break stuff. The impressively photogenic decay and the sprawling size of it all has earned it the nickname the Chernobyl of West Yorkshire. Messy, unsightly, a blight, some might say, but I have always found elements of beauty very easy to find in falling down abandoned old buildings. I hope you enjoy coming along with me. I found this place by chance one day. I was meandering around the internet and I read a reference to a place name, a rather strange one, Sunny Bunces, which immediately sparked an unrealistic hope that it might have some sort of a connection to Roald Dahl writing Fantastic Mr. Fox, which as many of you will know includes the caricatured farmers Boggis, Bunce and Bean, one fat, one short, one lean. So I followed the link, read a bit more, followed another link, bought a book and read it. It was fascinating, and I was kind of hoping to do a video about Sunny Bunces, which sits right next door to this brickworks, and which at the time that the brickworks was very much a place of work, was very much a place of leisure, in a late 19th, early 20th century pleasure garden sort of a way. Founded in 1880, originally as a market garden by Joseph Bunce, and then soon changed into a pleasure garden with a steady growth of attractions to keep people entertained and revisiting. It wasn't actually officially called Sunny Bunces. That was the colloquial name given because it was owned and run by the Bunce family. Officially it was Sunnyvale Pleasure Garden, and at its height it had 2 boating lakes, parkland, a bandstand, a dance floor, a miniature railway, a maze and an ice rink in winter. It had other rides and attractions that came and went, and a very cool automated coffee shop which was full on steampunk way before that was even a thing. It was to many people a well-loved day trip resort before actual going away sort of holidays were really possible for most people, and people dressed up in their Sunday best clothing to visit Sunny Bunces. Coming from many miles around, they danced and listened to visiting brass bands, boated and walked and talked and enjoyed the place, while their nice Sunday best clothing would get quite dirty from smuts of smoke pouring from the chimneys of this brickworks. Unfortunately for the idea of doing a video entirely about Sunny Bunces is not what it once was. The upper lake is now slowly silting up, a fishing club and nature reserve combination with a lot of unfriendly keep out signs on the surrounding fences, and the lower lake was where now sits a 30-foot high plateaued landfill site built up in the 1960s and 70s. And this brickworks is the pleasure garden now, albeit for less socially respectable types like me. And maybe you too if you enjoy urban exploration or old dump site treasure hunting or bricks or graffiti. Anyway, the Chernobyl of West Yorkshire, quite a title. Like Chernobyl, it has its dangers. Probably no more than standard background radiation, not granite bedrock, so not much radon gas radiation, but a lot of asbestos contamination, mostly cement-bonded asbestos roofing sheets that have fallen down and broken apart, but also some loose fibre asbestos pipe cladding. easy enough to keep safe, just need to be careful. Got to be careful too not to trip and fall over fallen bricks or walk out on floors that are no longer quite there. The fires did quite a lot of damage, and for more than 60 years of abandonment has brought down a few more walls, a few more roofs, and a few floors. There's always a chance more will fall. It's going to at some point. I would not advise letting children play here. But dangers aside, I think it's certainly worth a visit, or 2 or 200. No 2 visits are ever going to be the same. The jungle frog. Cute. The quality of the artwork here varies a lot, from amateur and beginner to approaching masterful. There are no curators for this art gallery. A buzzard, a beautifully graceful bird, in my quite human worldview, terrifying death from above to rabbits and small mammals, and some smaller birds. It does seem a little strange to me that I can enjoy seeing an animal hunting with the single-minded intent of killing and eating other animals which if I saw them would certainly brighten my day. Rabbits, small mammals, wood pigeons and crows, I love to see them out in the wild, and I do love seeing the predators too that need to hunt them to live. This area, trees are taking it over, but I think it may have once been either a really big shed or quite a few smaller but still quite large buildings. There's a chimney over that way, and between here and there is a very large pile of bricks. Like thousands and thousands of bricks, all piled up as if they were bulldozed out of this area. That's a very well-built little building with a tarp for a roof. Better built than any that I built as a younger me making dens, so maybe it's the work of someone older, still possibly a den or a hidden getaway place, but also it could be home to someone who's otherwise homeless, and I'll steer away just in case anyone's home and doesn't want to be disturbed. Not the easiest place to live, if that's what it's being used for. Not much in the way of amenities. The nearest water supply is a not all that clean little stream down there, so hopefully it isn't a main home. A bit of copper wire sticking out. Does this bulldozed away from the site massive pile of bricks really count as Urbex? And if not, then does the Urbex rule take nothing but memories, photos and footage really apply to here? I kinda hope not, because I want the copper for my forge, and I suspect that my friend Phil, who collects bricks, will want some of the bricks. Ah, there is a brick made here. Allen Brickworks was once world famous amongst people who built things with bricks, for making glazed bricks, fire bricks, bricks that could withstand the heat of furnaces. This one is glazed. I think I read somewhere that the fire bricks, not sure if this is one of them, were made by mixing polystyrene beads and sawdust into the clay, and that would all burn out in the kiln, leaving a bubbly brick that was very good at resisting heat. two big open-top dumpsters there. I watch quite a few dumpster diving videos on YouTube. It's not something I get to do much of here in the UK, and today's not looking likely to be an exception. Empty. But another place for people to practice their art. The person writing board all over this place is certainly getting a lot of practice. That character, I know him from somewhere. But nah, it's one of those memories that's pointless to chase. It'll either come to me weeks in the future when it's not at all relevant or not. If you recognise him, then please do say. No dumpster diving segment in this video. Still, there's plenty more to see. I'm moving in a sort of big circle around the outside of the site because I can hear young people doing young people things, like, well, breaking things in the centre of the site, and I'm hoping that they'll get bored and go away. Bored again? Yes, I think I'd get bored too, writing the same thing over and over. But I'm not bored exploring here today. Well, that sounded like the bird was in here. Sorry to disturb it. Alien is another common tag here, often high up and in hard to get to spots. I appreciate the effort, but generally like a little more artistry in graffiti. Like that, crisp lines and stylish. No idea what it represents, but it is pretty well done. I will get into these buildings, but I can still hear the young people. Maybe it'll take 2 visits to film this. Oh, hey Arnold. I think those might be some of the world-famous fire bricks, or discarded ones that failed quality control used as a base for this ramp. A big stone covering a drainage hole and a valiant, though not entirely successful attempt at channeling the water towards it. Not sure whether the water is here because a drain is blocked or if a new spring has sprung up. Ooh, this space, I like it. I'm currently imagining it refurbished and turned into a glass-blowing hot shop. A lot of the spaces in this place spark similar thoughts to that. I only need a ridiculous fortune to make it happen. Captain Pugwash, a cartoon once widely and falsely proclaimed to be full of double entendres. Lies spread easily and the truth is often less entertaining. Asterix, he's coloured in like a flag, and I don't know which flag. Red, yellow, green, that's a lot of flags, but the order and orientation should narrow it down. Nice light and an interesting space providing a nice play of shadows. I think this might have to be an Instagram photo. Sorry, I had to stop filming while 3 quite loud young men sauntered through the alleyway down there. Now I'd be quite interested to hear any other ideas for what you think these spaces here could become. Oh, I know it's impractical and almost certainly impossible, but I cannot help but dream. I am a dreamer, and in my imagination I'm already turning this into a world-class, non-monetarily profitable but endlessly socially profitable artistic hub. With a forge, woodworking spaces, recording studios, sculpture park in the grounds. Basically anything that I fancy trying myself, and far more besides, this place would have space for. Sadly, most of my dreams are a bit beyond my humble resources. Have I mentioned that this site is pretty big? It's a big site, about the size of a village. I don't know if I should be judicious in my energy expenditure and not go in the less interesting looking buildings like this one. Looks like a later build and maybe a mechanic's shop. Maybe not, no inspection pit. Gorilla's character? Who would have guessed that graffiti artists might like animations? I'm quite enjoying seeing them. It's been a while since I immersed myself in cartoons. Might read some Asterix stories when I get home. Even this, the youngest shell of a building on this site, would make an awesome workshop space. I think I'm maybe wallowing in the unrealistic dream scenario side of thinking about this place, to avoid falling into the melancholy side of things, like thinking about the inevitable sad decline of a frankly amazing place. Oh, I do love that it's being used by many varied artists as it falls ever deeper into decay, but there is a sadness in seeing places and seeing vast, vast potential that there's simply no money in, so no interest from money. Ain't no one with vast fortune gonna fund this place back to life. There's the sadness. I've just spotted a least weasel. Going to try to film it. Not quite the right camera for this, but it's what I've got. They are the smallest carnivorous mammals in the world, in the same family as badgers and otters, and seeing it has put a big smile on my face. I've just realised that the one thing this place is truly lacking is doors. I don't think I've seen one still standing. Everything else, roofs, some are kinda still there, walls and floors for some of them, windows, yeah, a few, but no doors. That's very unusual for abandoned buildings, the owners of which are usually quite keen on keeping people out. This space looks big enough to drive a truck through, and of course some of the spaces are designed for that, for loading bricks and unloading materials. Onwards, or backwards, I skipped over a few buildings. I was distracted and looking for more wildlife, and also marshalling my thoughts for what I glimpsed. This room has a nice gallery space feel to it, but the artwork is... well, I have views. The art is fine, the quotes irk me somewhat. Monstrous perversions of geometrical laws, that's immediately recognisable as H.P. Lovecraft. Grotesque extremes of sinister bizarrerie. I don't remember that quote, but it does sound like him too. He never did use a one-word description when 5 words would do, and far too often he resorted to absolute rubbish, like beyond the imagination of mortal man, as if anything is. I can quite easily imagine everything that he applied that label to, and I'm quite limited in my visual imagination by having been born with aphantasia. I've got no actual visuals in my conscious mind. Anyway, while I do very much enjoy cosmic horror, tentacles, and of course, contemplating the insignificance of humanity in the face of the unfathomable enormity of the universe, I don't like the fact that Lovecraft was massively, almost rabidly racist, even by the quite racist standards of the time, and once I was aware of that, it was very hard to avoid seeing it shine through in his writing. I hope the artist finds other writers to be inspired by. Anyway, a rusty hopper, which I think probably trucks would back up to and tip materials down into. It is quite photogenic really. I might post some stills from this onto the Rust Appreciation Facebook group that I can't remember if I'm still a member of. Wow, that's a lot of colours. Spray paints aren't cheap, are they? I guess that's part of why most graffiti pieces are only a few colours. Not much of a floor, so not much artwork. Plenty of easier places to paint here. Stairs that go down below floor level. Well, no, they go down to the level of the ground I'm standing on, and I guess that's where the original floor level was, raised up to make it easier to unload things from trucks. It is a nice space and the light is lovely, but it doesn't look safe to go in there, so down the ramp I think. Quite a busy representation of a word. Not boring, quite enjoyable, and somehow reminds me of the opening credits of A Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, probably just for pastel colours and the style of the patterns. I quite like this. Not often a fan of silver spray paint, but I think it works well here. And neatly written the name Thoth, ibis-headed, very important deity of ancient Egypt. The Greeks, if I remember correctly, renamed him Hermes, and credited him with inventing every branch of science, maths, and language. Found it. The ground floor room housing the lower part of a huge hopper, and beneath it lots of bricks and rubbish, and no sign of any remnants of a conveyor belt. So what was the hopper built to hold and release in a focused line down here? Bricks maybe, certainly a lot beneath it, and no, can't see any obvious missing parts of where there should be walls up there, just the roof that's missing. I don't really understand the function of this. If you can fill in any gaps for me, I'd like that. Strange little building, tall and dark. Any ideas, anyone, for its original intended use? Remains of a campfire, indications that this might be a popular spot for some semi-wild camping, or perhaps artists who need a while to paint their pieces might stay on site. Ooh, darkness, worth getting the torch out for? Nah, just grotty, trash-filled understairs space. Wow, okay, a long corridor with only one door right at the end, a hole in the wall beyond a makeshift bench sitting beneath quite an old and peeling board. Everything went a little bit sideways after that last clip. I accidentally put my camera onto the wrong settings and filmed a whole load of the site in time-lapse mode, and then I came out into this space where some teenage boys had started a small fire just there, and they had put quite a lot of a very pretty silvery thread-like material onto the fire, I guess just to see if it would burn. They had no idea whatsoever that it was asbestos till I told them. One of them knew the word, and the colour drained right out of his face as he backed away nervously from the fire. The other had to be told a bit more. The fire hadn't done anything to the asbestos at that point, but I told them and some of the young people who were painting nearby that it really wasn't a good idea to stay, and I left at some speed as the wind was picking up and constantly changing direction, sending the smoke all around the site. They didn't really seem like bad kids, just lacking a bit of knowledge, and I'm glad that I had the knowledge and was here at more or less the right time to share it. Hopefully nobody here that day inhaled any fibres, and hopefully those boys will be able to share the knowledge with other people in future if a need arises. So it's now a few weeks later, it's a beautiful early summer day, and I'm back to film the rest of the site. I have also promised to come again in a few more weeks with my friends Caroline and Phil of Let's Go With The Johnsons, so this video shall probably contain footage from 3 visits. Editing it is going to be a challenge. Those 2 things are the motors that power long corkscrews that start here, go through the next room and into the room after. One is sloped up from here, the other down. I think they were for mixing clay and getting an even consistency. This pink, it does look like it's the original paint. Could red paint have faded so far through fire and several decades of being exposed to the elements? I do think red is more likely for its original colour. Oh, lovely light. There might be an Instagram picture in that little panning shot. Modern power cable from a kettle, I think. Far more modern than the collapse of this building, which I think was heavily affected by one of the fires. Those shelves look... well, fire and several decades might give similar results, but there's some charred bits of fallen wood that were formerly part of a roof. More charred wood. It's surprising how well the charring protects what's left of the wood, so it looks almost as good today as it did the morning after this place burned down. Toilet rooms. Ah, yeah, this one only. The other one has rather crude graffiti. That's the middle portions of the two corkscrew mixers. I think they're both about 10 meters long. Some lovely rust, and down in the bottom, well, there's some that's a little easier to reach. Polystyrene. It was mixed into the clay and would leave voids when the bricks were fired. Sorry for the wobbly camera work, I'm on tiptoes to reach. They pass into a third room, which is largely empty. That girder does draw the eye somewhat. Quite a pleasant curve if you don't know the sort of fierce heat that would be needed to make it so. And there's the end of the corkscrews, connected. The mixture went through both. That's a new piece. I like this artist's work. He's a member of the same loose arts collective that I am, selling creations in a shop in Hebden Bridge, at least at the time of filming, but perhaps not when the video comes out. The shop's former landlord went bankrupt and the new owners want the shop gone.
There's a lot of people that work with it, isn't there? For years.
Sadly, it's really sad. Actually, you had the program the other day, and folks saying they lived right by a factory producing asbestos.
Alright.
And they had an outlet that blew all the dust out from the factory.
Yeah.
This, I think, is the public footpath that runs right through the site. Must have been an ancient right-of-way. It reminds me of one in Hull, which goes right through a fairly high-security dock area, and then up onto and right along the length of the roof of a vast storage building. I used to walk that route quite often. It was enjoyable watching the ships being loaded and unloaded from the rooftop. This, too, is quite a view. Unusual cut into the wall. Maybe the wall was built around a portion of building that's no longer there. There's similar brickwork and a doorway into the air conditioning system centre of operations, looks like. Might have provided some of the air pressure to feed into the blast furnaces too. Now that is where Asterix and Captain Pugwash were when last I visited. I'm trying to not film too much of the same spaces again and again, but I think it's worth including changes and new interesting pieces. This is a strange room. I think those are the remains of 2 small blast furnaces. The last bake of bricks still in situ. I can't quite reconcile the small size of these furnaces with the massive size of the site and the fame of the bricks made here. Surely there were facilities to fire bricks in far higher numbers at one time, maybe in the bit that was bulldozed into the woods. Or maybe older furnaces were dismantled as the business was scaled down in the later years. And just off from the blast furnace room, there's another building with a staircase going up, and a large room with a roof coming down that I would advise people not to enter. I'm going to demonstrate why. Aside from the instability of the roof, which is certainly going to fall down further in the future, and the future of course includes the time I'm going to be in here, well, the aerial pipe that still hangs over there used to have lagging packed all round it, and that lagging was loose asbestos fibres that are now littering the ground. I think it was asbestos from this room that the young people had on their bonfire. Now, been down there, haven't been up these stairs yet. Let's. Okay, I think that was painted years ago, and maybe years ago there was still a floor here, but now even the support beams look rotten. Might be something amazing just out of sight around that doorway, perhaps a masterpiece, but that does not look like it would definitely hold my weight. Currently about 12.5 stone or 79.5-ish kilograms for anyone curious. Back down the way I came, I think. There's a coin right here. An old pound coin, no longer legal tender since 2017, and this one was minted in 1983. I wonder when it was dropped, and how many explorers have walked right over it without seeing it, right on the surface. I'm sure there's rooms I haven't filmed yet. That one there is one. Nothing much going on in here. Some cool lines, and when the light is right it'll surely be very pretty, the play of light and shadow, but not much artwork, and what there is ain't great. Onwards. I'm struggling to remember if I've been in there. No worries if I have, I'll just cut it out in the edit. Nice line work and a pink scowling kitty. I quite like that. It's simple and effective. And one of the most intact remaining roofs I've seen hereabouts. Oh, that's quite something. Chaotic and spiky and swirly, and I think I like it. Huh, wasn't expecting that. Any more? Yep, I think there might be a nest behind there, and if there are chicks, I don't want to disturb them. I can't hear any. I guess they may still be eggs, but if they're hatched and if they're just being quiet, I should leave. Now that's a little frustrating. What's remaining at the top looks like it was something I might have liked to see, and the work covering it is simplistic and possibly less appealing, though I can't see what it covers, so I can't be sure. These are scattered around a few buildings. It feels like nylon. After the brickworks closed here, there was a plastics company that used some of the spaces. Guess these are remnants of that. Just looking for marbles. There's bound to be some from some of the older spray cans. Lots and lots of little alpine strawberry plants. Too early for any to be ripe. Maybe next time I visit. It was blue skies when I arrived today, now it's rolling, roiling clouds of grey, suggestive of rain in a bit. Anyway, exploring to do. That artwork was their last visit, but I think the light is better today, and the angle. I like the style of it. Loco. Hope I'm not loco going up here. Cement floors reassuringly sturdy, not so loco to have a look around. Odd little room. Big hole in the wall which I think was a big picture window, and the room is very small and narrows to a point. A lot of dead space for such a big window. A big room, nice space. This looks like the work of the H.P. Lovecraft fan at Godstopper. It's okay. Think that's another piece by the same artist. And that one too. Ambitious and not without skill. I hope to see future works by whoever it is and see them get better and better. That might be by the same artist who did the piece in the Pigeon's Room. It's older and simpler, and I do like it, even though I can't really read it. That I can read. Elder Gods. Lovecraft again. Don't think I've seen Lovecraft-inspired artwork resembling a cartoon anthropomorphized doorway before. I'm sure there were reasons in the head of the artist. That one kind of reminds me of a drawing I did when I was about 14, and I wasn't all that happy with it. I once, long ago, painted my bedroom walls in that colour. I painted the ceiling a fairly dark wine red, and they worked together quite nicely. And another piece by the H.P. Lovecraft fan. At least I think so, the style is very similar. Bench. Big hole in the wall, where big things could be hoisted into the upstairs. Smaller, and with what appears to be 2 shower trays in the corner. Don't quite understand why they're there right next to each other with no visible remnants on the walls of any partition between them or privacy screen around them. Pret. Cool colouring, wavy contour lines, light on dark yellow, kinda trippy. And, oh, that's nearly brand new, less than a month old. Bold, characterful and strange mouth expression for a creature with love in its eyes. By Pret X Banana. Is the bear a character that anyone recognises? A Care Bear perhaps? I like it either way, it's cheery, and I think I've been in all the buildings now. Going to leave the site now, not by the way I came in, but by a path that leads down along the border of the former pleasure gardens of sunny Bunes and into pleasant woodland. If you've watched this far, then thank you so much. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any expression of appreciation is most welcome. So a big thank you in advance to anyone who presses the like button, the subscribe button and the bell icon, writes a comment, replies to somebody else's comment, shares a link to my videos on another platform. It all helps. Another big thank you to all of the kind people who donate through Ko-fi, super chats during premieres, super thanks on video pages, purchases from my Amazon wish lists, and subscribers to my Patreon page. I am very grateful. I hope you're looking after yourself and loved ones as best you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, some more footage. A little bonus footage for the few people actually still watching this very long video, and the several dozen people who fell asleep to it. I'm visiting again, this time with my good friends Caroline and Phil of the YouTube channel Let's Go With The Johnsons. That's new. I'm not really here to film today, so maybe just the obvious changes. That's the same old board, but that is different. Someone's painted over poor old Foff. Still, this is an awesome space.
Sadly, yeah, it's really sad. Actually, you had the program the other day, and folks saying they.
And finally, about 18 months after I found out about this place and thought that Phil, a collector of bricks, might appreciate it, he walks now off a vast brick pile carrying quite a few selections on his shoulder. And now for a second time, thank you very much for watching, and this time, goodbye.